Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the All Balls Sports Show. Brought to you in part by True Love's Pizza and Grits at 1144 Riverside Drive. A discussion of any and all sports, local, regional, and national. And now, here are your hosts, Dan James, Eddie Bobo, Ty Cobb, and the coach, Vance Ballou.
And a very pleasant good evening. Thank you, Bill Jones, and welcome into tonight's edition of All the Balls Sports Show. We're starting our fall season for 2017, and of course we've got Eddie Bobo here, and Vance Ballou, the coach, and Fire Chief Ty Cobb. Become Fire Chief since the last time you were here before.
I have.
Yes, you have.
Yep.
And one of our special guests, along with Jason Hoath, who is the coach of the Columbia Central High Lions, 3-0 Columbia Central High Lions, will be here tonight. But Rick Saxby is here from Stoneybrook Golf Course, who's the golf professional out there. Rick, how are you tonight?
Great, good to be here.
Good to have you here. Like to thank Kathy and Glenn Truelove for being our sponsors for the All the Ball Sports Show. I was out there talking to Glenn today, and he was giving high praise to the folks at Columbia Central and the football team. And I got to give them high praise. They've stuck with us. I mean, they actually stuck with us.
Yeah, they have.
They got a good athletic director out there.
So. No, I'm talking about Truelove's.
I'm sorry.
No,
I didn't sleep much.
They're
last
good
night.
athletic supporters.
I might be a little rusty tonight.
Oh, that's okay.
I did not go, but
Wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute.
I didn't.
You did not go to Atlanta last night?
no, if it had been on Sunday night, I'd have probably been there. But with today being work day, a lot going on. I
Have
just
you
couldn't
built
do
up
it.
some like comp time or something like that?
Oh
you
yeah,
could
I've got
take
that,
off?
but sometimes you got to be at work, so I had to be there today.
Okay. All right.
And
I had to be at work today, too.
Yeah, but he was grumbling last night.
Oh, God.
You know, he was saying, how much longer is this going to go on? I don't know.
You know, I'm going to be getting up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, let's get into some college football. Alabama looked good the other night, Coach.
They did get a good start to the season. Got a win, and unfortunately, like some teams, they got their share of injuries.
Yeah, they get
They
that
did.
was
players
the thing that stuck
for the
out to
year.
me. Yeah, more.
Two
like
linebackers.
there was,
wasn't
yeah,
it?
they did, but
Yeah.
there was injuries across the board for a lot of teams, more so than it seems like in the past.
especially for first week of college football, it was a lot of injuries.
It sure was.
Yeah. A lot of people out for the year, but first game, you know. You feel for the Florida State quarterback. I mean, you
man,
know,
it's
that was
tough.
one of them, you know, freak plays. And when I first saw it, I you know, when he went down, I thought he was going to be complaining about his right knee, but it was his left knee. So, you know, because it looked like he hit more awkward with the right knee than he did the other. But, you know, that type of injury can be a strange thing.
But, you know, interesting to watch Alabama is that their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, never has any emotion whatsoever.
Yeah, he's pretty calm.
Whether he gets hit, whether he stays upright, he never shows any emotion.
Yeah, and he plays it to his favor, I think.
He don't get rattled.
Yeah.
But he's interesting to watch.
Yeah, he is. You never know what he's going to do, which direction he's going to go, and he's still young too. I mean,
Sophomore.
yep. He's played a lot to just be a sophomore, especially when you consider they had 15 games last year. But you know, if he can stay healthy,
Yeah, there's one game he'd like to have back.
yeah, one play at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say he'll get his chance this year.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be back. I mean, that's one team I'm picking to get back to the title game. That's Alabama. How can you not? I mean,
Yeah, it'd be hard to pick against them.
They just reload. They don't, recruit. They just reload. Rick, your take on college football from the weekend. I know that you watch stuff out there at the golf course.
Well, the thing about Alabama, everybody's always going to talk about Alabama, is that they've really almost, in my opinion, they've made almost the SEC an unlevel playing field now. It's just incredible. I mean, they can just reload year after year. I just don't see any end in sight to what it's like. Everybody else is playing second fiddle right now in the SEC, and I know I see a lot of
I see a lot of people across the country that are saying the same thing. I'm not downplaying any other SEC team out there. It's just that Alabama, I mean, they're 2 steps ahead of everybody. I mean, Clemson had to play the game of the year last year to be able to beat them last year. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was crazy watching that A&M UCLA UCLA come back.
Oh God! I watched that entire game. I'm going.
How do you figure something like that happened? They were comparing that to what the Patriots did last year in the Super Bowl. So I mean, who would have ever saw that coming?
Well, I certainly didn't, because I was sitting there thinking when they were up, whatever it was,
44 to 10.
Okay, I'm thinking
44 to 10.
Once again, I'm thinking UCLA is the most overrated team ever.
For 3 quarters anyway.
And then I jinxed A&M. I'm afraid.
Well, you know, Coach Hoath, he's not here yet, but Big Blue, you know, they come out and they jump up on Florida, and then they throw in 2 possessions. They throw back-to-back pick sixes, and I thought, well, here comes Florida, you know. And then that was it for Florida the rest of the game.
Well,
they just didn't.
The interesting thing, and I take all this weird stuff into consideration when we're watching games, that the numbers on the jerseys for Michigan were so easy to read for guys like us in the press box and spotters like you, who, by the way, Eddie Bobo does the best job of spotting for anybody. Somebody like Stevie Wonder could do my job if you got a great spotter like Eddie, and I'm honest when I say that. But it's so easy. But how ugly were those uniforms for Michigan? Who picked that color? Who picked that uniform?
The maize color.
Well, my thought was they were inventing a new color. I had never seen that before.
That's kind of like Oregon.
That
you know, Oregon
shape.
has about 16 different jerseys and all uniform combinations. But you know, when the man that owns the sports company is alumni and supplies them with all that stuff, they can have all that.
Yeah, I think they mentioned that they had worn that color once, and I think it was maybe 80 some years ago that they had worn that color.
There's a reason they've only worn that color once.
Exactly.
It's ugly.
All right, and then we turn to last night. Oh, by the way, you know, Nick Saban owning a Mercedes-Benz dealership now in Nashville. You know, of course, his team gets to open up in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium Dome in Atlanta. So I'm just saying, you know, I'm sure that had something to do with it.
I agree. Well, let me add this to Alabama football. I had this thought recently. If you think about, I guess it started when somebody was talking about how dominant they had been over the last 10 years. But you think about the schedule they've played. Nobody in history has ever played as difficult a schedule as they have in the last 10 years when you consider how strong the SEC West is.
Right.
They always play in a kickoff classic against a good team. And then now there's 2 playoff games to add to it. There's nothing anywhere close. And, you know, back in the 70s, we probably, most of us can probably remember that. You played your conference game and maybe one other difficult game.
Right.
And that was it. And the Southeastern Conference is so much stronger now than it was back then across the board. That part is really amazing that they've been able to do that well to me. Go ahead, we can proceed with the show now.
No.
I just had to get that off my chest.
You're absolutely right.
But you know, you talk about Alabama and how it just seemed like they just, you know, reload, and it's easy to do when you have a successful program like that. All Nick Saban's got to do is say, "Hey, you want to play for us? Here's a scholarship."
But
you know,
Alabama's football program was at rock bottom when he took over too.
Yeah.
So it can be done. I know it's Alabama, but Tennessee has great top facilities in the nation, and other schools do too. And if you have the right coach, you can win. I'm not an Alabama fan, but I like Nick Saban. I think he's a winner, and he proves it every year. Alabama's football program is no different than Kentucky basketball
program was.
They reload every year. Their whole team could go NBA. and they reload every year. But you can say other schools don't do that. So
here's my problem with Tennessee.
they hadn't won a big game.
Nope. Here's my problem with Tennessee. And I know that my Tennessee faithful fans out there are going to call me on the street and call me on my phone and tell me, you're full of crap. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. How many times last night during the game did you hear national sports announcers making excuses for Tennessee football? This guy's hurt. He's not playing. This guy's hurt. He's not playing. You recruit to those things. How many times last night did you hear that? The reason they're not performing is because he's hurt, because he's not playing well, because of blah, 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 blah. No. You can't continue to do that. You can't keep making excuses for poor performance.
Coach, I'm gonna let you answer first. I don't want Daddy Dan jump across the table. You go after that one.
I'll start with Tennessee did win.
Well, I understand they did.
They did win.
But here's the thing, and my Tennessee faithful friends out there know this: they did not deserve to win.
No, not after the performance the defense did last night.
Well,
Rick's staying out of this because he knows he's got customers that come out and play golf.
My blood is as orange as anybody's,
Exactly, and mine runs orange too.
My other question though was when Kurt Herbstreit said for the ESPN,
"Get my kid out of here."
Well, but he said he talked to Butch Jones, and Butch Jones said he didn't know if this team had the depth, and I can't remember if that.
Well, they got one of the top 5 recruiting classes in the country.
Well,
but here's talking about
last year's. Well, I was going to say, how can being at Tennessee 5 years and you not have depth?
Thank you.
I mean,
did you not recruit for those positions?
I mean, Nick Saban had depth after his second year.
Right.
Yeah. I have a question though. How many coaches, head coaches, and their staffs have great recruiting classes, which Tennessee's was what this year?
They have
about number 5, in the nation.
And Coach, maybe you can speak to this, but how many of them can translate the talent with the coaching to get what these guys have talent wise to perform on the field? I think that's such a rare quality to be able to have in a coach and in a program. It's a very difficult thing. Well, I mean, you look at Saban. Mm-hmm. Saban's done it at 3 major universities.
That's right.
And he's won championships at 2 major universities. And but I think he's a very, very rare bird. I think it's, man, that's the $94 million question on how to be able to get that talent, because I'm sure there's so many kids that have come to Tennessee that have had great resumes from their high schools, but how many of them can go to that next level? And I wonder sometimes if maybe they just the combination isn't there for them, for the coaches to be able to translate that. Maybe they're great recruiters. How many guys have you seen that are great recruiters but can't coach as well? And how many guys who get great performances out of lesser talent?
Well, I think there are a lot more great recruiters than there are great coaches.
I agree.
I think technology's created that somewhat. Media's created that a little bit. You can be a smooth talker and recruit very easily. Not easily, but that's going to help a great deal.
They're like salesmen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
And another thing you got to worry about too, you recruit these guys in. It's their first time to be away from home, and all that. And then there's all these distractions or things that they can get into. And, I like the old days when you had your athletic dorms where the coaches lived in the dorms with the athletes, and they could keep a better eye on them and make sure they're staying out of trouble.
They're going back to that.
And
they're building. You know, we was against the rules for so long, but now they're going back and building. You know, it's not a football facility, but it's an athletic facility where all athletes are housed together. I think, you know, you got to recruit well and be able to coach well. And then the other part of it is somehow it's got to be cohesive within the program. And, of course, the head coach is very important in that, but other people are too.
Well, I was noticing
that.
I was noticing last night, you know, the backup quarterback for UT, he just looked like he was sulking on the sideline the whole game.
Well, I was going to bring that up, Eddie.
And, you know, and I hated to see that.
But the chemistry on Tennessee's sideline, and then you look at Alabama's chemistry. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
No, it's not the same.
No, because the players from Tennessee were kind of like, well, we got a little click over here, and then we got a little click over here, and our quarterbacks are separated by an aisle,
you
know, and they're not talking to each
same.
other, and it's not the same cohesiveness that you would get. Well, like with Alabama, you know, they're all in a pile, and when they do something great, they celebrate.
Well, you know, you have your
together.
defensive players together and your offensive players together, and they have their little meetings, you know, when they're on the sidelines, you know, and then, you know, they're together for the whole game.
Right.
But you know, what I saw on the UT sidelines last night didn't look good. And you know, if we play like we did last night with the SEC teams, it's going to be a very long year. And
but I think what I'm getting at too, and I'm not coming across at you there, Ty. It's just not that's not my style. But I mean, you know that. But I think what I'm getting at is if you've got a faithful and backers that give a team like the University of Tennessee as much money to do what needs to be done, improve the facilities, have the #1 class weight room probably in the country.
They got it all.
Hire the best, as they were saying last night, the ESPN announcers, the best defensive mind with Shoop.
I don't know.
Well,
I agree with that.
Well, what I'm saying is he comes with high credentials, and
he looked lost last night.
he looked like when they put the camera on him that he wanted to like go under the table at one point. But I'm just saying, you know, when you're putting that much money into a program and you have done the recruiting, then don't make excuses on the first game. And I'm not saying that Butch Jones did. I'm just saying that don't make excuses on the first game as to why you're having a poor performance. And it shouldn't come from a sportscaster's mouth at that point. Well, because all you got to do is look at the product that's on the field.
You're talking about the demeanor of the team on the sideline and the two quarterbacks. Now, I don't know if this is fact or not, but I heard this morning that Coach Jones had promised the freshman playing time yesterday, which he didn't get. And of course, I mean, when I was 18 years old, I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Believe me, I could sulk with the best of them. But you know, and I think that's a lot of times they tend to forget these kids aren't really grown up yet. Was it true that he promised them playing time? And if he did, that was probably a big mistake. You can't. I don't think you shouldn't make promises that you may not be able to keep, especially to a kid who may think of himself as a stud, five-star stud coming out of school, and especially I think he was from Texas, right? He was recruited out of Texas.
I think so.
Yeah, and so I mean, hey, that's you know,
that's
that high school football is religion down there. They got bigger stadiums than some college teams have down there.
Yeah.
Of course, that's where Dormady come from too. Was from Texas, so you know.
So yeah, I mean, you know, that tends to, you know, create a little friction, I bet.
Yeah, it's but yeah, I agree with that. You shouldn't promise stuff. You know, it's kind of a fine line. You have to make plans. This is what we're planning on doing, but we're not making any promises.
Yeah.
to anybody, and I'm sure every coach has made that mistake before, but it is along the lines of what you're saying. It's a different world for us as fans watching than what the kids are going through. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you know, we just want our team to win, but that kid's trying to get through college, and you know, we always tend to think about the stars. Well, 98% of them are not stars. They're trying to get from one day to the next and find their way in the world, grow up, as you said. All those things kind of factor into what's going on in their emotions when they're on the sidelines.
Well, we'll bring this up with Jason when he comes in about the situation Friday night. Some people were second guessing that maybe he was out coached on Friday night. Well, I don't see that. I see that Friday with Columbia Central, and Eddie and I talked about this in great depth last night. Friday with Columbia Central, you had schools out because of the Labor Day weekend. Nothing was in the same realm of everything else that goes on Friday night. We didn't have the tailgating. We didn't have the walkthrough. We didn't have playing the Redskins through the Lion Walk. We didn't have any of that stuff.
Didn't even have the band out on the field with the giant L.
No, so and you didn't have. I mean, you had horrible conditions as far as playing conditions go, and rightfully so. Lincoln County had the same kind of conditions we had. But it's not always going to be 70 degrees and clear skies on Friday night, as we know. Right. So I would say that the coaches did a great job under the conditions that they were handed, and the kids did a great job of coming back under adversity.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I think that was true on both sides.
Right.
I think Lincoln County is a physical power type team, where we're a speed team, and the field played to their hands that way, but their coaches took advantage of it. You know, they changed some things they did offensively. Actually ran an offense we had not seen, and you know they were going to run the power run game and take full advantage of it, which they did. And then our coaches and Jason were able to put ourselves in position on 5 or 6 plays where we could basically outrun everybody on the field and make the plays to win the ball game.
Speak of the devil, he just arrived.
Yes, that's it.
Come on in. Was your ears burning?
A little bit.
A little bit?
But Dan, I got a great lead in for both of these guys.
Okay, all right.
So we're going to give them both most improved awards. Jason, turnarounds from last year's 3-0 and got the Lions playing well. And Rick, you might have to correct me here. Stoneybrook was voted one of the top 25 most improved courses.
Yes, there's a ranking through a online system called Golf Advisor, where people go in and they'll place their, a 1-star, 2-star, up to 5-star rating based on their opinion of the golf course in different areas, from amenities to the condition of the course, friendliness of the staff. And we were very fortunate last year. We had been on Golf Advisor for a couple of years, and we were. This is with all the courses across the U.S. I mean, to say I was surprised was an understatement. But we were 8th in the rankings across the U.S.
All right.
Wow.
So I was very stunned,
Yes.
but very, very pleased. Thank you.
And you can see it out there. I happen to have been out there a couple of times last year or so, and
a couple of times.
it's in fantastic shape. Really.
Which week you talking about?
It was one of those 1 through 52. I think.
But it is in great shape. It's a great place for people here to play, and great environment.
It is.
Coach Hoath, you'll be pleased. We gave kudos to Michigan on their win.
All right, but whoa.
But that was the ugliest uniforms.
Somewhere there.
Ugliest uniforms I have seen in college in a long time.
For a spotter, the numbers on the uniforms were
great, but
the uniforms were the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I've seen some uglier ones, but they definitely weren't my favorite.
It was in the top 5, I'll guarantee you, of ugly uniforms. Anyway. got your Lions on a roll, 3-0.
Yeah, thank goodness. It's been a good to have a different flow from last season. So it's been nice this year, a little more enjoyable, I guess.
Well, we were talking about the conditions for Friday night. You know, nothing was the same. School was out. No lion walk. No tailgating. No band on the field. The conditions were just sloppy and terrible, but just like that for both teams. Lincoln County always. I don't care. We even go back to 2010 with our championship team. They always play us tough.
Yeah, Lincoln County. You know, I was thinking there's only a handful of times that I've been on a coaching staff or have coached against them that we've actually won. I feel like most of the time we always come up just a little bit short against Lincoln County. And our win the other night was the first one since 2012 against them.
Yeah.
So they had a little streak going against us this year.
And how many times has it rained in the last 10 years with Lincoln County?
Probably 10. Franklin County for sure.
Yeah,
but
yeah, we were discussing that.
Franklin
in the press
County
box.
spit snow down there.
yeah, it snows in Franklin County.
Yeah, we had ice conditions one year, we were discussing that Friday night. It seems like it always rains when we play Lincoln County and Franklin County, or like you said, spitting snow or ice. In Franklin County game, and always Lincoln County always plays Columbia a very tough game, and like you said, most of the time we wind up on short end of the stick on those, but we got them this time. So.
I know we found a way to win, and that's what I was pleased with. First time this season, we're only 3 games in. The first time
behind.
we really saw some adversity.
Right.
First time we were losing in a ball game, so it was good to, it's been my biggest question. Everybody says, what's the one thing you're worried about? I'm like, adversity. I don't know how our kids are going to respond. So I was glad to see them when we were down, continuing to fight. So that was good.
I think this is the first game this year to where our D-line did not lead the team in tackles.
I know. I think Will Anderson led us in tackles the other night, but Chase Roberts still leads on the season though.
Yeah.
Did Will get a stinger the other night?
Yeah, it was just a stinger, so
Okay,
he was
good.
fine. Yeah, I held my breath there for a second.
We were holding our breath.
Yeah, way he got up and that arm was limp. I thought, this don't look good.
Will's been battling shoulder injuries since he's been in high school, and luckily this year we were finally able to just say, "Hey, you're just going to be a defensive player this year, and you can be a backup offensive lineman." So when he went down, I definitely I was like, we better make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
I think there was a huge sigh went when we saw him go down. I was like,
Yeah.
Up there in the press box. Hey, while we've got him here, Vance, we need to give kudos to Rick for all that he does on the Dillon Rabior
Absolutely.
golf tournament every year. We've had that 4 years now, maybe 5.
I think it's this year was the 5th year.
I think
Was it
that's
5th
right
year?
too, yeah.
But he and his staff out there at Stoneybrook Golf Course do an excellent job of making sure that we have that thing put
Aid
together.
number 1.
I mean, it's got to where now that all of our teams, as far as what we do in gathering prizes and all that kind of stuff, that's all taken care of. But the other behind the scenes stuff, Rick and his staff take care of.
Yes, they do. It makes a big difference in how the tournament goes and how much fun people have. And, Rick and, like you said, his whole staff just make it run so much smoother now that we're in year 5. And that's the way it is with all the events out at Stoneybrook. They do a great job running the facilities, and it's hard not to have a good time when you're at Stoneybrook. I'll say that.
Well, the thing about it is he'll treat you so many ways you got to like one of them.
Hey, I'm going to have my wife quilted on a pillow or something. Well, Coach, I just want to tell you, Coach Blue, I just want to tell you too, thanks for you and your wife Paula, and then of course for Heather and TJ. Everybody is terrific to deal with. I mean, it makes my job, to be honest with you, it makes my job real easy. And it's just, I think you're right though. I think the best thing to do is try to create a fun atmosphere for people to come in, because it truly is an event. I like to think of it more of an event than just a golf tournament, because it's a fundraiser for scholarships, for How many did you guys award this year?
Two. We
Okay.
give 2 out each year now.
And from
Now
boys
it's
from
got
the
big
from
enough.
the football team?
Yes, Central football players for college scholarships.
Well, this year we picked. They picked a
The water girl.
Water
That's
girl.
right.
Manager.
That's right.
Manager.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Somebody. So somebody. One of those or both of those kids were associated with the team.
very
It is.
deserving this year too.
Yes, very deserving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So
it's,
that,
it's a great blend out there of more serious golfers, and then those who's connected
There's
to
me.
those that are. That's not what I was thinking. The serious
Serious
golfers
golfers and hackers.
Those that are, that is true, but we have those who have a connection to Dillon, and then those that have a connection to the football program. It's just a great day.
And I'm
See
gonna tell
all
you,
those things come together.
one of the things that touched my heart on that was the overall winning team. When they were presented their money, they turned right around and says, "Keep it."
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know.
I've seen that more than one occasion with teams that have done that with not only with your event,
Right.
but with other events also, and that's what makes golfers great, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's why you love what you do. It's why you
right.
do what you do.
That's right.
Hey, before we get out of college football, which we were talking about college football, top 5 in the AP this week didn't really change. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Penn State, and Oklahoma. That is in the AP poll. Now the college coaches poll has Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Penn State, and USC. The coaches poll has Tennessee moving up from 25 to 21. And the shaking head of Eddie Bobo. And the AP top 25 has Tennessee remaining at 25.
I'm not
Just
so sure
saying.
we deserve to be even at 25.
Well,
You know.
all right, let's talk about and Ty, you are not only bleed orange, but you also bleed two-tone blue with the Tennessee Titans. What have you seen? Have you seen anything in the preseason that has that has said, "Man, we're gonna get it this year"?
I'm thinking 8-8, 9-7. I think their running backs are DeMarco Murray, and
I'd like to see him
I
play
mean-
Derrick Henry a little more than what they
I
did.
would too.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Derrick Henry is solid, and
He's underutilized, you know.
Do you think he's getting frustrated by that?
I don't think he's that type player. I think he wants the ball more, but his time will come. But I just don't have high expectations for the Titans to do better than that. Y'all might disagree with me,
I
but
mean, you know, they acquired a lot of people, you know,
They
in the
could
off season and stuff. But like I said, as the old saying goes, proof will be in the pudding.
yeah,
you know.
they could surprise us. They surprised me last year. I wasn't expecting that. Anybody?
Dan's got that slow grin.
Well,
on it,
what
but-
All right, let's just go around the table. Your favorite pro team, Rick? Who do you root for?
I would say the Titans. Yeah, I would
Okay.
say the Titans, and I think they'll surprise us this year because I really don't think preseason games.
Yeah, you can't count that.
No, because you're playing your 2s and 3s and 4s.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
obvious.
the key always is to keep your quarterback healthy.
Preseason and the pros is like the jamboree in high school. You know, you're not going to show your hand. You know, and
All right, Coach. What's your favorite pro team?
Well, in my situation, you have to have your favorite team, but you have to have your backups because being a Detroit Lion
No.
fan, It's not easy.
Don't even go there. Just give us your. No, somebody did this, who did that to me last week. Somebody did that on the show last week at True Love's Pizza
Oh,
and Grits
Lord.
Thursday night preview.
I
Maurice Patton was the one
Yes,
who
yes,
did
that's
that.
it. Was.
Well, I'm going to be a Detroit Lions fan forever. That's
fine.
my team.
That's fine if that's your team.
I just never know what we're going to get.
Well, they don't know what they're going to get.
But I'm going to cheer for the Titans.
Their team is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get.
They're going to win 11 games one year and 2 the next. I mean,
I disagree.
Okay,
I always
Forrest.
know what I'm going to get from the Lions, and I'm a Detroit native.
That's why he's a Titans fan.
One playoff win since 1957. I'm sorry.
yeah, we had good times in the 50s.
All right. Now, Ty, from what I'm seeing here, we're kind of on the fence with the Titans this year.
Not easy.
Well, my other team growing up before the Titans ever existed was the Miami Dolphins.
Oh yes,
I'm a big Miami Dolphin fan.
Yeah.
Dan Marino, Mark Duper, Sammy Smith, Mark Clayton.
See, I go back before that.
Yeah.
Bob
You
Greasy.
go
Bob
back
Greasy.
to the
Zonka,
undefeated
Mike
season.
Warfield,
Yeah.
Mercury Morris,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to me, there was no
Nick
better back.
Molicani.
There was no better back on the planet than Larry Zonka. I mean,
Oh,
you give
man.
the ball to Zonk.
He was a beast.
He was a beast,
He was a beast.
without a doubt.
The
Little bit-
Dolphins did sign Jay Cutler, $10 million deal for this
Okay,
year.
let's move on.
I wasn't saying that good or bad. I was just saying they had to
Or
make a
indifferent.
quarterback decision.
Yeah,
and
but that's a 1-year deal though. That's a pretty good.
I think
deal
it is
for
a
him
1-year deal.
for $10 million. That's not bad.
not
I
bad
believe
at
I'd
all.
come out of retirement for $10 million.
Oh, I know I'd come out of retirement for $10 million. Thank you.
But I hope the Dolphins have a good year too.
Yeah.
So
Coach?
I'd say overall the Titans, but there's no way I could ever root against the Patriots in
Ooh,
the current situation.
You're right. You're right.
So I
Now, if he swaps teams,
yes, then I'll swap teams.
of course, we're referring to Shaq Mason. If he gets out of his contract at some point and goes somewhere else, then we'll have to,
Yep, I
you
agree.
know.
But I like the Patriots organization. I don't
Yeah.
understand why everybody. Well, I do a little bit with.
Belichick.
Yeah. Well,
But I got to see an interview that he was doing on one of the late night shows. This is like maybe 6 months ago or whatever. And Shaq was right. There are two Bill Belichicks. There's the Belichick that you see in the press, and then there's the Belichick who's the guy.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Well, you know, personality-wise, he kind of has a worse label than what he is. I mean, he is just going about his business, and he don't care if he
Well, he's
makes
successful.
somebody mad or not. But
Kind of like Saban in the
He
last news
is.
conference.
yeah, well, a difference there. He doesn't try to draw attention to himself.
No.
I mean, he's going about his business, and that's it. You know, there's nothing else. He's going to do it in a sweatshirt. And, you know, I'd like to see him at church or something. See if he wears a sweatshirt that's cut with a little
Sleeves cut off.
yeah, sleeves cut. That'd be great. And have a tie on underneath that. That'd be perfect. But I kind of like his mentality myself.
Well, now for me, I'm kind of like Ty. Back in the 70s, I was a big – well, I was a Dolphins fan when they first came into the league. Then later, of course, I've always liked Green Bay Packers. And I'll root for the Titans, but when they're playing certain teams, I got to root against them. And I rooted for the first time in my life for the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl this year, and it turned out good for us. I mean, you know, early it looked bad, you know, but they did a. It was that game was, like you said, just like the Texas A&M UCLA game.
Yeah.
You know, it was 2 games in one, and you know, and during the Super Bowl, I all I kept thinking was, why did the Falcons go away from what they were doing successfully? They were running the ball, getting 5 yards a clip, you know, and they quit running. And then they went to throwing, but they quit throwing to the 2 guys who were catching the ball. They were trying to get everybody else involved, and you know, it fell right into Belichick's lap.
It did.
And like you said, you don't give Tom Brady the football and 2 minutes to go.
Nope.
And
He'll break you
he'll
every
break
time.
you every time. And I know you love Tom Brady.
Never believe it. Well, he came from the greatest university in America.
Well,
I mean,
that
He played at Alabama? I didn't know that. I did not know
I'm
that.
surprised that when you asked Vance what his favorite pro team was, I was like, he's going to say Alabama because that's the pro team. I'm surprised he came up with something else.
Well, the sad thing is, I believe Alabama could play several pro teams and beat them, but you know,
Probably Detroit.
Let's start there.
Cleveland.
Growing up, I never had a real team though that I really stuck to. Miami Dolphins, of course, were big with Zonka and Greasy and all those on the team. But then I would switch over to Montana and Jerry Rice with the 49ers. I mean, that was a
The 80s.
sweet,
Yep.
yeah, that was a sweet time. Then I went with the Bears in '84, in '85, and have never really had a team that I've gotten behind. I've never had a jersey from any team that I've gotten behind. So, you know,
Well, when I was a kid, I liked whoever's highlights they were showing.
no.
And I just couldn't get over the fact they were getting a long run every single play.
Yeah.
You know, they scored all the time, and this team's great.
They lost by 4 touchdowns, but man, what a highlight!
You remember those days, Jason?
Oh,
You know
yeah.
where you watch highlights for 10 minutes and you just got to go outside and
That
play.
boys and
Oh,
girls
Just got to
is
go
why-
get engaged.
It's why Vance Ballou became a coach.
then you go out and blow a knee, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
Oh, great Googa Mooga. Anyway, field conditions of the night not too bad. We got a field that drains pretty well.
Yeah, we do. I was pleasantly surprised that it was actually as good as it was. You know, it was back and forth all day. Do we play? Do we hold off? I mean, I think we finally made the decision 1:30, 2 o'clock on game day. Then all right, we're going to go ahead and play no matter what. But it drained really well, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I was expecting it to be throughout the duration of the game. I think when the game was over, it didn't look awful.
Yeah.
So, and then I think Cox played on it the following Saturday.
Saturday at 3, yeah.
But,
they
you know,
did.
we're off of it for 2 weeks, so I mean it'll be.
And Withorn's only got what, one game?
I think they're off this week, but they have 2 home games next
Okay.
few weeks. But I mean, they're not going to tear it up too bad though. So
I'll add Wayne Lindsay did a great job
Yes.
in having it prepared, and you know, and he'll get it looking good again too.
And it was
no
great
doubt.
to see that lion logo out there on
it
midfield.
was.
Yeah, Murray County Parks and Recreation is responsible for putting the line out there.
Oh, were they?
Yes.
Okay.
And Southern Athletic Fields does all the striping for the field and always do a great job. And the funny thing is that Bill Marvitt always comes out and he's always looking those lines, make sure they're straight. And does a great job. Those guys at Southern Athletic
Well,
Fields
you know,
are top notch.
Yes.
The softball classic that didn't actually happen this time, we got to watch Marvin and his crew do their
Full prep.
full prep for that field. And if you got out there early, like what Dan and I did, and you walked up there and you looked at that field and you go, there ain't no way. They're not going to be able to play on this thing. And shoot, they had it ready. If they was going to have a game, they had the thing ready.
About 3 hours later, they had it ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, they were fully prepped and ready to go. Speaking of ground crews, you guys got a good ground crew out there at Stoneybrook too. Keeps those greens in good shape.
We do. We have a young man that our superintendent for the previous 6+ years that I was there or have been there, Gerald Potts. He kind of went into semi-retirement, and he still assists us occasionally. Comes out and assists the young guys. But we have a young man who actually worked for Southern Athletic Fields, and he's heading up the grounds crew now. And he's mature beyond his years, a young man named J.D. Davis, and he's doing a terrific job with the crew. And he's getting as much done as we can with as little as we can or as much as we can possibly afford. And so, yeah, we're tickled how the courses look. They've done a great job.
All right, now Vance wants to know who determines the hole placement on the greens.
I usually do if we do a tournament, but if I am easily bought. So if you're willing to go out there and mark them with me, I sell mulligans on my own at tournaments, and no, I'm just kidding, of course. But
Sounds like a good
Go
plan.
to the back door of Stoneybrook back there. And
That's
where,
right,
That's
yeah.
where you'll find
this,
Rick.
this is the first year that I remember, you have mulligans,
Yes.
but then you also had a toss.
A toss, yes.
You know, that's the first time I've ever seen that put into play.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, we watched your oldest son, his group come through, and they teed off on number 1 there, and they used Bryant's tee shot. And when they got down there, somebody said, "Throw it." So they picked the ball up and they tossed it, and they rolled it up with about 3 feet from the pin, you know. And I'm going, my God.
Was the short par 3 on the first nine? I can't remember which hole it is, but we used our toss off the tee box there. So I think we could throw it closer, then we could probably hit it there.
It's a good strategy.
Now, in your group of who is it? Davis and you and
it varies. I mean, every year somebody draws a short straw and gets stuck with me. I
who
mean,
tossed it? Who
Somebody
tossed it?
gets stuck with you.
I think Scott Tillman. You know,
Did he?
Scott's still
Okay.
got a pretty good arm on him, you know. So, you know, I was like, you can take a shot at it. So, he landed on the green. Got
He
it
was
on-
able to throw it all the way to the green.
got it on the green right
Wow.
there.
If
that
you've
one
ever
time.
tried to throw a golf ball,
It's not easy.
Yeah.
it's
No,
not
no,
easy.
no.
It's not like throwing a football, a baseball, a
baseball,
softball. You think, oh, this is easy. It's so small. Till you throw it about 3 feet in front of you, right into the ground, because it's so small and light.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, the one thing that we do want to do tonight, one of our co-hosts, Ty Cobb, was recently appointed the fire chief of the city of Columbia. Big job, and a job that you've been training for a long, long time. And how are things been the last month that you've been you've been big daddy on the block?
Been very busy. Roller coaster of emotions, of course. And,
Right.
Yeah.
but we've got a great department, great city, great people, and you know, we try every day to provide the best service we can. So,
Because we're what, a class 1?
class 1,
Class 1?
top rating, class 1's as high as you can get as far as when you're evaluated and graded as a department, and there's a lot to that. But we've had a lot of great people. We didn't just get there overnight. It's a team approach, just like in sports. Work together and you accomplish the goal, and that's what we strive to do every day. But thank you for mentioning that and your support. And
Oh, yeah.
we're going to be out in the community helping people and being there for them.
Now, you see a situation like Houston, Texas, and then what they're going through. Of course, this is much bigger than what Columbia, Tennessee would be. But we've also had our share back in
We have.
76 and many years since then, where when the Duck River gets up and it gets out of its banks, and it gets out of its banks badly, then you guys are faced with trying to get from point A to point B and having water in the middle. So what happens in that particular case?
And we've actually had to evacuate Riverside Drive before the floods of 2010 was when we really had to relook at the services we provided and making sure we had water rescue capabilities, and we purchased our first flotation device and life-saving equipment as far as water rescue is concerned, because we did actually have a lot of flooding in 2010 from North Bigby, Riverside area, out in the county. So, you know, when we talk about the fire department, it's more than just fighting fires. In fact, that's really the least that we do. It's medical calls, rescue, extrications, vehicle accidents, code enforcement, pre-planning. I mean, we're public education, so it's a job. It's really the fire service with many services that we provide. So hazmat, that's another thing. But after the 2010 floods, and you being a former resident over there in Riverside community, you know how quick the river can get up, and then that affects the smaller creeks and areas where water can suddenly just turn into a floodplain. And we've seen over at Columbia Central High School just how, with the topography of the land and how it's
Had to
changed.
rescue the boy in his truck.
Right. But how quick high water can occur from heavy rains in a short amount of time.
And speaking of that, Lake Cartwright, by the way, now that they built the new school, rises very quickly because that water comes
It does.
flying off that hill now. With that new parking lot and the new building, and so if you're ever in that area and you see the water rising at Lake Cartwright down there beside the Little League field,
Don't
stay
drive
away
through
from
it.
No.
Well, we can say that for our city too as a whole, the way it's grown, and
Yeah.
the landscape has changed in certain areas, and new roads, new housing development, and the whole city's changed, especially over the last 5 to 10 years
Sure.
with the amount of growth that we've had. But I just think about Central and how it's changed out there, and then we had high water around the stadium. So got to always be observant. Remember, since we're talking about water and flooding, and then we possibly could have effects from another hurricane that's developing, you just turn around, don't drown.
That's it.
Turn around, don't drown.
Where's the live by, especially those folks down in Houston?
They had that's probably going to be one of the largest disasters that we've had in U.S. history. By the time the federal government probably spends, I'd say at least a minimum $10 billion. I think they've appropriated $8 billion, but for emergency relief. But FEMA is a big business, which FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. But not only dealing with that hurricane and then preparing for the next one, which the state of Florida's their governor's already declared a state of emergency. I mean, you can strand resources quickly, and a lot of people can be hurt and be without help, and that's where you just have to lean on your neighbor and others to come to your rescue. You might not have a fire service or a firefighter coming to help you out.
I think one of the most important things too, Ty, that a lot of folks, a lot of taxpayers out there do not realize. Yeah, those are big fire trucks. Yeah, those are big apparatus that you operate. Yeah, they drive around a lot, but every single one has a paramedic on board now, right?
Yeah, EMT minimum.
Okay.
We do have 9 paramedics at Columbia Fire Department,
and first responders.
We're upgrading that too. Yes,
Yeah.
But just about every firefighter to be hired, you have to have EMT, which is a year of college. So.
Well, there was a
highly
bad
medically
accident
trained
on Nashville Highway this afternoon out there near where they're doing the road construction. There was a van.
They did have a serious accident.
Tore up bad.
Yep.
You know.
And we experience that daily too. We're
Yeah.
more people on the road, and in your highways and high speed areas, with more congestion, you deal with that. So, talking about the fire service. With our sports show, what we look for in a firefighter is somebody with team oriented, that works in teams, that can work together, because our firefighters work in teams, usually groups of 4, sometimes 5, and we try to be a diverse organization and make sure that we have the best quality of people we can, but we always try to speak to sports teams and go out to Columbia State and your local community colleges, because they really do fit well into what we do as a fire service.
Hey, I do have to give hats off to Coach Hoath and his coaching staff. You guys are finally putting something together that is rubbing off on the team. You guys have become cohesive. You guys are starting to work together. You guys are coming together with a plan that is, I would say, simplistic, because you have simplified your defense and you've simplified your offense to where it seems like it just might work for you for a change.
Yeah, that was one of the things we talked about in the off season. So we got to get back to some of the basics on some of the things we were doing on both sides of the ball. And that's the thing about coaching high school football. You might have a certain offense or certain defense that you're gung-ho on running, and then depending on the type of kids you get and what they're able to handle, you might have to change things up.
Yeah.
But the goal was to go back and simplify things to where we can play a few things really good. And I feel really good about a couple of the fronts that we can run defensively. I'll speak from a defensive standpoint, I guess. And then we can build off of it from there. We've actually got a lot more in our playbook that we've repped in practice. We just haven't done it in games yet. Hopefully we'll never have to do that. That's always the goal, but we've got a lot in the playbook right now. I feel pretty comfortable with our kids being able to execute, but a lot of times we're coaching, we're getting a bind on defense. We'll just go back to the base stuff and let them run what they know. But it's helped out a lot. Coach Davis did a good job this year on our offense as far as simplifying the run schemes. So a lot of our run plays and even some of our pass plays, the run blocking scheme doesn't change. So the quarterback will tell the offensive line a number, and they know what to do. They might not know what the play is, but they know what their job is, and they're going to run it. So we
did a good job in the weight room too with the kids.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those things where we looked at every aspect, and obviously what we did last year didn't work. So we were like, we got to change everything top to bottom. That's one of the reasons we went to the uniform change. Just we wanted a whole new look, a whole new everything. I mean, we've talked before about the construction going on. We were getting a new weight room and locker rooms still in progress, but there's been progress in that area. So it was just whatever we can do to simplify for our guys.
All right, let me ask you this. When the band comes out of what used to be, when I was going there, the new gym, that was centuries ago, will you be able to take over the entire building?
Well, as far as I know, and Vance might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but the school is planned to be finished around December 12th, December 13th. So we're thinking, all right, after Christmas break there, at that point, the band and the ROTC should their facilities should be ready to move in, because that's essentially who we're sharing that building with now. So, which I know that won't happen overnight. It'll be a process them moving in. Once they move in, where our ROTC is at right now, I think they have it set aside for some other minor sport locker room areas, which that's a space we don't need anyways. But where the band's at in the new gym there, hopefully the plan is.
It was a new gym in 1971, by the way. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it was. At one point it was, huh? Hopefully the plan will be for football, baseball, and softball to go, and we would like to do some turf down there to give us like an indoor practice facility area, which all three sports could benefit from. That way, if we ever encounter thunderstorms, we're not going into the gym where basketball is at or volleyball, or we're able to do some of those things.
Yeah, they got a little problem with that.
Yeah, I know. So it'll be nice. Or if it's you think of thunderstorms, but especially when you go through July and August, a lot of times the heat index will get you. And now we have permanent air conditioning up there. So if temperature ever gets so bad early on where if we need to go inside, we can still go inside and continue to practice, which will be huge, because if you get in a situation where there's nowhere to go, then you got to think on the fly, all right, what are we going to do? So it'll be nice. It's one of those things where we just say we got to be patient. They're being patient while they're waiting for their facility to be built, and we're going to do the best we can to be patient too. So,
well, guys, we got a couple of minutes left to go. Anybody have anything you want to bring up real quick, or Rick, do you want to?
I was just wondering where you parked your dinosaur back in those days.
My dinosaur was parked outside of what used to be the old band room, or the band room they tore down this year, because that was the parking lot, and the parking lot was gravel at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my birthday was last Friday. I turned 63.
And the Central High School Lions gave you a birthday.
Yes, they did.
That's right.
Yes, they did. Hey, that was one of the best ones of the night, I'll tell you.
I know, that was a close one.
All right, real quick, Lawrence County, coming up Friday night.
Yeah, they're, of course, Coach Morrison, traditional wing tee. They've been running for 20 years now. They are coming into the game. They are 1-2. They beat Lincoln County also. I think this will actually be Lawrence County's home opener. They've been road warriors for 3 weeks straight. They finally get a home game, so I told our kids they'll be a little amped up. But they're gonna be tough. They're gonna be physical, just like they always are. They're always well coached. I still feel that we have advantage on our speed. Of course, there's not gonna be many teams. I feel that speed is not gonna be our advantage this year. So hopefully, we'll be able to execute our game plans and keep rolling.
Good deal, Rick. What you got?
No, I'm just happy to be here. We're just looking forward. We have a fun event this coming Friday. We're having the if anybody hasn't heard of the Murray Magic Riders, yep, they're having their second annual fundraising event. Fantastic organization, great people, and we'll look forward to that this Friday, 1 o'clock. We're having a shotgun start for them.
Good deal. Ty, anything?
I'm good. Go Lions.
That's right.
We've got to get him up in the press box too.
Okay.
Sometime during this season. Got to get you up there. It's fun time. Really is. Hey, might get you a spot one night. You won't
Yeah,
do
we
that.
could have used you Friday night.
I will help you out.
All right, very good. Vance, what you got? Anything?
Just go Lions and happy birthday, Dan.
Oh, thank you very much. And September 22nd, it's going to be the Battle of the Backyards between Spring Hill and Columbia at Lindsey Nelson Stadium with a big Chick-fil-A halftime show. And Coca-Cola is going to have
tailgate.
It's going to be doing the tailgate from 4:30 to 6:45, and there's going to be free food and bouncy houses and inflatables.
What time was that free food again?
4:30 to 6:45.
I don't know if I can get out of that time, but
And I think they're. Well, I know that we are the Columbia Central Gridiron going to forego the tailgating that night, but I think the Lion Walk's still going to happen. So they're expecting 10,000 people. Good luck with that. But anyway, that's coming up on September 22nd. That'll be our first game back after being on the road for 2 weeks.
it will be.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, that's it for our first All the Ball Sports Show for next week. Next week, I'm going to promo this now, and I'll be putting it on Facebook. Next week, the legendary coach Johnny Majors is going to be by phone here in studio. By phone. not here, but he's going to be here by phone.
I hope it goes better than the phone call we tried earlier.
Yeah, but that's going that's a little miscommunication on my part, so that's not that big a deal. So anyway, that'll be coming up next week. So
Great.
we hope to have you all here, and I believe City Manager Tony Massey and Mayor Dean Dickey will be here. So
Awesome.
all right, good deal. All right, guys, for everybody on the program, we are out of here. Peace.